Hey there, builders! Welcome back to Squee-El's gaming channel and another episode of Ark Survival Evolved. We're calling this one my part 2 of my base walkthrough, just because I kind of wanted to. I've played a lot of building games, like I've always said: Conan, Exiles, this game, No Man's Sky, Citadel, Forged with Fire, just to name a few. Um, and it's getting to the point now where we're pretty much just looking forward to Ark 2. Most of those games have not really been active lately, other than this game having free maps, but it hasn't actually added any new content. Um, there's rumors of possible new Conan and No Man's Sky content, and I actually play Valheim too on the PC. We're waiting for the Mistlands update, and I'm going to do a Valheim base walkthrough as well because I do actually play that game as well. But anyway, to avoid ranting too much more, we're going to get into this now. As far as this base, it's a pretty simple one right off the bat. This is the Scorched Earth map, the first DLC map that came to the game that you could pay with for. It was part of the season pass. Not a map that was really. It was kind of cool, but it didn't bring as much to the table as some of the other ones. So I just built this simple little base here. Actually, let's go down here real quick. There's not really a front part to this. I kind of have a taming pen here. And you had a couple new dinos, like this guy here, the scorpion. I believe the moth was also made available on this map. Maybe the kangaroo here. The terror bird wasn't this map, but he was also kind of new. Vulture, had a couple new guys here. This guy can store water, so he's useful. He's full right now. I did kind of like this little river nearby here, but I didn't really. I used it for irrigation, as you can see. I'm never very fancy with the irrigation when I do it, but that's got something irrigated. Oh, I got like a little water place here. But anyway, you come avoiding the taming pen. Technically, I guess you would kind of come in this way. Let's stop flying for a second here. The rock elemental was added to this map. I thought he was really cool, actually. Just a big, tanky kind of guy. This is when we started seeing wyverns for the first time. Naming them after Skyrim dragons here. And then we got old Shenron there. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the facility. The main base that I built here. Built this kind of with my girlfriend, but this was in, all things considered, still fairly early in Ark days. This is kind of how I did some of my warehouse storage sometimes. I wasn't going for as fancy of a build yet because was still kind of, I'd gotten the hang of the game by this point, but I wasn't quite to the point yet where I was just doing ridiculous things. These guys were new. This was kind of one of my first attempts at breeding in the game. I just had a little breeding corner instead of like a whole pen or outside space like I have in other maps. But you come upstairs here. There is a second floor. This was a map that I never did anything with. I thought that maybe if I ever actually brought my Ark clan to this map that we would make more use of the second floor. But we never really played this map, so that never turned into much. But then you get up top here, and it's kind of another place to have some. I mainly needed a place to put this since this couldn't fit inside, and I already built the base, but you can always have some flying mounts, and then our way up to the tippy top here, assuming I can climb this ladder. There we go. And then there's one last little kind of sky room. I don't know, to be honest, if there was ever really a point of this room. This is kind of when I first started messing with glass, and I just thought it was really cool to have this room that was, you could totally see everything. Even some of the floor was glass, so that's pretty much about it for this map. Again, this is one of my simplest bases. I've even got a classic taming pen. We showed off one of those in the previous video, so I'm not going to open that up or mess with it. The only other thing is if you come back up here, to which is where I was previously, I kind of made it a little secure. Even you can see how this guy's stuck now. But you could come over this way. And I guess at some point I thought I was going to build something here. This is the last thing that I guess I was messing with. I don't know if maybe this is where I was originally trying to build a taming pen, but since it's built out of wood, I'm thinking maybe I thought I was going to build like a lone cabin up here or something. Maybe a watchtower, but this map pretty much died. I never really did anything with it. I haven't even explored it as much as some of the other maps, so kind of a shame. But it was fun for a minute. Now with Scorched Earth out of the way, we're going to save the Genesis maps for last because those are the other maps that I have fairly sophisticated bases on. We're going to load into Aberration. Now, ironically, this base is kind of cool. Got some unique tames here I'm going to show off. But this map, overall, this was another one of the paid maps, of course, from the Season Pass. But it was probably my least favorite map that they've ever done. This map and actually the next map I'm going to show you are the two that I didn't like as much. This one mainly because it spent so much time being dark. There were all these hostile areas, like you could be damaged just for being in certain areas sometimes. And it had like a cave system. Like this map is very much kind of like up and down setup, unlike a lot of maps where it's just kind of like a flat surface. You know, there might be caves or underground stuff or whatever, but this is kind of like you're pretty much just going up and down the whole time, and it's easy to get lost on this map, so it wouldn't really be ideal. But it's pretty cool. Guess I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the spot that I picked here. It's really hard to kind of show this map off in great detail because it's Aberration. It's just a mess of a map, which you can see right now why it's sort of weird. Even though that opens up there, there's no way to be like actually outside. But it's kind of this cool little space I found here, sort of at the edge of the water. And I just dug in. I didn't really want to explore or wander around this map any more than I had to, so I just kind of started doing my thing here. I've got a crab guy outside here kind of to patrol. And you can't even really see this character, and I don't know if my cheat to make it daytime would even help on this map because it's so dark. But you've got like the Reaper Queen here, who technically you don't even really, I don't think you can really tame. I had to force tame this one, but this is kind of like, it's the closest thing to like the Xenomorph Queen, I guess. It's like obviously what the reference they were making, it's just a big monstrosity. It's kind of, I actually left it outside my base on purpose just because I didn't want this monstrosity indoors. But it's cool. I've got an Aberrant Spino, which is something they started doing, I think, at this map, where they started glowing and getting all fancy. Ballista's cool. I had a couple different little tames here, back behind the gate here. The Ravager was something that got added. It's really sort of a shame that it's so dark. I want to say I had more lighting at some point on this map. There must just be some torches that went out. Yeah, there's some torches here, actually. Let's see if I can do something about that. I don't want it all dark. Yeah, they're just not on for whatever reason. Well, they are now. You got this little guy. A lot of the light guys started becoming important because you can use these guys for a source of light, you know. Still can't really see the Ravager. I got my torch here. There we go. Yeah, so there's like these jackal guys. They're pretty ferocious. I thought they were really cool. And then there's just this guy. This guy Burrows. A giant rat. He's just kind of there. There were definitely some interesting tames for this map, but the Rock Drake, I think I showed you guys, yeah, he was on another map, but this is the map I think that he originated on. He's cool because he can fly, climb, all that sort of thing. Now the base itself is just this one simple little building here. It's something a little different, completely elevated off the ground. Despite the front gate being over there, the gate to the actual base is here in the back. You would come up the ramp here, open all this, come inside, and this is where I spawned in. We've got this big old kind of balcony here, opened up with the main crafting area and everything here. And that's pretty much it. You just have also this stairwell that you can take all the way to the top, and it's kind of just like my little office space, my little chill space. And that's pretty much it. That is actually another map down. This map I didn't spend a whole lot of time on because I had no desire whatsoever to really go out and do anything and just explore the map. I did for a little bit. I got wrecked horribly a couple times. But despite that build being another one of my real simple ones, I thought it was kind of cool, you know, for what it was. Next up, we've got Extinction. This was another Season Pass map. This was the final actual map of the Season Pass. Another map that I wasn't really a big fan of, and I didn't go very hard on for making the bases. Kind of misleading considering how in my last video I had a couple just incredible bases to show you guys right off the bat, and then this is some of my older bases in this video until we get to the Genesis content. So these were some of my less ambitious ones, and again, I wasn't a big fan of the map, so keep that GCM on. This map was interesting because it was broken into several different regions. None of which were really impressive. That was the thing about this map. It was very, it's very cool, like, concept, but then when you actually got really into it and started just exploring the maps, there wasn't really a whole lot of anything that was really worth exploring. Like, it didn't really, it wasn't a map that made me want to go out and just do much. Unlike the last map where it was just too annoying to want to set out and do much, this map was just simply too boring. It didn't really make me want to. I explored a little bit before I ended up finding this space to settle on right here in the desert part of the map, which is like just against a waterfall here with a cool little pond. Nothing super fancy. We've got a taming pen over here. But as far as this base, it's just what we're going to see here. You walk up, and right away, got my entire little creatures for this map. Some new guys would be like this guy. We started getting like robot dinos. This guy's similar to the rock drake, I want to say, in the fact that he can jump and whatnot. The sloth guy made his debut. And then we had the big old mech thing that you can pilot yourself. It's actually pretty cool. It says he's following me, so let's just make sure he's not. Or he just sits there, whatever. And the snow owl was also a new guy. So, like usual, some pretty new cool tames. Let's go ahead and check out the base on this map. All pretty simple, all things considered, but another little kind of cool one. So you come in here, and you've got the classic crafting room. You know, there's always kind of that main room, at least in Ark. But that's this room, you're crafting. It's got a little bit more space than I feel like it needed. But I overplanned for this base. I just made it bigger than what I thought I was going to need, just in case. You get up top here. This is just more of a cool area, kind of like the chill space. I really like what I did here, though, with the waterfall view. It's kind of something that I just liked hanging out on this floor when I was playing this map. Another map that I didn't really play for too long. And then this takes you up to the top platform where the owl and the wyvern are. There's nothing really up here. It's just kind of, you know, why not have ceiling access and a guard wyvern. But that's just about it. You got a little thing over there where you could open up that door and look outside the gate. There is a tiny little compartment here under the water. You can open it really from any side, it doesn't matter, and close it up. And then you just kind of, I think this is the first time I technically played with an underwater compartment before I ended up using it more on other bases. So I just thought it was a cool concept. I didn't actually do anything with it. But that is it for this map. That is Extinction. I would probably show you guys a little bit more of this map if I had actually built more of a base presence in this map, because like I said, there were totally different regions. The desert was just one of the several that I chose, but it just wasn't a very inspired map overall. I didn't like that one as much. So now we're going to load the Genesis Part 1 map. Now there's Genesis Part 1 and Part 2. They were both paid maps, so they were part of the actual paid add-on content for Ark, but they came out after the Season Pass. They were announced as a separate Genesis Pass, which included both maps, but it was a whole separate pass that you were able to purchase later in the game. So this was kind of almost like Season Pass 2. These maps started adding a bit more, like with the tech and stuff, like the force fields that you've seen. This is where these bases got a little bit more sophisticated with what I did. So I'm glad I saved these for last. These are going to be kind of cool. The Genesis Part 1 map was another map, much like the previous one that I mentioned, that was broken up into several parts, but it could only really be accessed certain ways. So right off the bat here, this is kind of the starting area, I guess. Like these swamps with these massive trees. It's the first region you find yourself in. This is where I built my main base, I guess you could say, on this map, which is almost completely nestled underneath this giant tree stump. As you can see, the force field there, that's the front part. We're going to get into that in a second. This map introduced things like the space whale, which the space whales wander no matter what you do. This guy was closer to my base, but they won't stay still. I mean, they wander off. He'll disappear eventually. He's still fairly close, all things considered. I had two at one point. The other one's long gone. I brought this guy back, only for him to start wandering off again. So don't think too much on the space whales. But getting into the base now, there is kind of a little walkway that we can use to get up here, as far as like if you weren't cheating and flying around. You were just kind of, you would sort of start down there, I guess, and walk up this little path here if you happen to notice it. Come over here, and then once you get through the force field here, there's my front gate, and I got a hover skiff. This is also the map that brought in things like the hover skiff, the force field. A lot of the stuff was new on this map. And then there's this guy. He was one of the new creatures for this map. I saw him in another map, but this is the map that he made his debut on. We had these little guys, which are cool, but they can turn into giant Yeti-like things that are actually quite bruisers. We're still kind of technically right outside the tree. This little tunnel right there leads back like underneath the tree stump, so we're right here on the entrance, and I went ahead and just walled this area in and made it a little fort. Built this little building here. It's kind of just here. I guess it's like a public area. Got light crafting, some food stuff. Tame is ready to go. Transportation ready to take us out of here. And then if you come back here now, you get to the center area, which these platforms here, they just have basically guard sentries placed, even though there's really no need for them this deep in my base. Just kind of there. Real quick, if you turn this way, there's another exit out that I blocked with a gate. There's nothing over here. It's just another way out of the base. But just cool, you know, another exit, another entrance, and it's pretty unnoticeable, all things considered, like from a distance. But if we come back over here now, we're gonna check out this little base I built. This was all with tech. This is where I started like using a lot of the tech stuff. It's just kind of a little home slash. It's got this back room here that I took advantage of kind of the terrain to just make this hidden back room, which is cool. I kind of go for lab vibes sometimes. So there's a little mix of that. You can, glass ceiling mixed with tech. Thought it was cool. Now, if you continue up this path, this technically takes you to like the next part of the base. We've got these little guys, which were another spawn, a new spawn for this map. They're really annoying in the wild because they kind of just shoot web at you and they can pull you right off a mount. But they're convenient to have because they jump around. Walled off the back section because normally this would be how you would leave the back part of the base. And then there's like a little path that leads you down to this pond here and whatnot. So, pretty cool. Got a force field though, because I keep everything super protected. But when you get back in here, you go over the wall back to where we were. The inside here, you would come up this way kinda to access the teleporter, which is how we're going to get around. And then there's the forge. Kind of just this little, the forge is always a fun thing to try and find somewhere to put because it's just massive. It doesn't always work inside buildings. And I got a little windmill over here that I thought looked cool. That's actually kind of a light tower, which I used to somewhat help myself find this base as I was flying around because a lot of this map looks the same and it's foggy, so the light tower slightly helped if I was close enough to see it. But that's pretty cool. The force field kind of took a little away from this view, but it's still pretty cool, all things considered. Now this map is one that I have another teleport system on, much like how you guys saw in Fjordur. We're going to go ahead and teleport. This is what I call home. And once the map loads in here, you can see how there were basically 5 different regions. Some of these are just outposts, some of them are full-blown bases. What I just saw was a base down in the green area there where the X is. That's where I'm at currently. I'm going to go up to the volcanic area / my volcanic outpost. Now this was just a smaller one. Some of these areas I just built an outpost in just because I wanted to have some kind of presence and teleporter access in each region, even though I didn't spend a whole lot of time in a couple of the regions, like this one for example. As far as playing this map, as you can see I got this guy here. You would actually have to come to the volcano if you wanted to tame one of these guys for yourself because they only spawn here. But once I climb off the teleporter here, you guys can see, it's like I said, there really isn't much going on here. I've got this tiny little house here. Just kind of, I guess if you needed to stay here for whatever reason. We'll get a quick view of the area. This is a totally different area from where we just were. Even got that cool little thing over there. Maybe I could build a base off of that or something at some point. I don't know. I don't think I noticed that before. But you would find the Magmasars, or however you say it. He's roaming around like inside the volcano, like in caves and stuff. So this is an area you would have to come to specifically to tame that guy. But there's not much else here, really. It's kind of a hazardous area. the caves aren't really good for building in because they are so overpopulated with enemies. I'm gonna go ahead and check out my Frozen Wastes outpost. Another outpost, kind of just this setup at this base is almost identical to the one we just saw, except it's in a icy area. Which same story, you can kind of come here, but it's pretty hostile area. There's not really a whole lot to make you really want to stay here. And there is actually a whole section of the map that's so foggy you can barely see anything in front of you. It's kind of cool, but it's just inconvenient. I could probably maybe see myself building something else here at some point, but I think I was just... This map, I had really a couple different things that I could go with, and I didn't want to spend too much time building a whole lot, like several just really intricate bases, and I could just keep it to just having some outposts. I picked up locations that were up really high and isolated, so like this one, like nothing's even really going to get up here and mess with me because of the location here. I always have a hover skiff for flying around. Go inside the little structure here. Just another little house. Nothing fancy. Air conditioning for the cold. So we're moving on. So now we're going to go to my... there's a complete water section of the map. And we're going to go to right now to the section where I just built a fleet. Now this isn't really a base or an outpost. It's just kind of like it's a literal fleet. You'll see what I mean when we get here. It's just something that I kind of did for fun. At this point in time, I did do something later, but I hadn't really taken advantage of the water section. This section of the map has... I did build this up here, this little skiff tower. But it's really finicky about letting you build things up on these mountains. Otherwise, I would have built like a really cool base up there or something. But it flat out forbids you from building up here, so... You really didn't have any option other than to just like spend most of your time in the water on this map, which I'm not about water, so I definitely avoided this map more or less. And then when I learned how much it was going to restrict my building in this map, it kind of destroyed the couple ideas that I had. I really wanted to use this right here to build on, but it wasn't going to allow it. So I did this instead. I built a little fleet, literally, as you can see here. I got some space whales down there. I've got a couple of these war turtle guys, which were another new addition. They can be used as platforms, very large backs, even as this guy's thing here. I've got like a Master Roshi house on the back of this turtle. Technically, I guess you could take... I don't know how this guy got in here. You could take this whole thing underwater. This whole turtle with the base on top of it and everything. It's really cool. I've also got a couple of the eels. A decked out mosasaur. He's got new armor, some tech armor now. That was one of the things they added eventually. And yeah, as you can see, just most of the map is like this. It's just underwater craziness. But this is my fleet. I've got a whole pad over here with some hover skiffs, some extra rafts. I've got extra tames over here. This guy was added at some point. He's alright. He's kind of a medium level mount. And that's pretty much it for this part. There's really nothing else to all this. However, since I built this first, I did notice later that there was a second area in the water region here that was really cool. And so I went ahead and I came over here. There's just a random glitch here. I don't know what this is about. Let's fix it real quick, I guess. I want to say I've seen a glitch before, but I don't really think that was ever as much of a thing. Anyway, yeah, the Genesis did add a little bit more of a story to the game. This area is going to be a little hard to show off because there's just kind of a lot going on here, but basically, so we just arrived through the teleporter here, and it's kind of just this main little area. There's a bridge system here that'll help us get up top. I'll show you guys kind of what's going on here a little bit more in a second, but there's this kind of bottomless puddle here that ended up... I've got a bunch of jellyfish trapped underneath here, so that's the light you're seeing. The jellyfish are actually quite... They're ignorant in this game. They're one of the most harassing things that you can come across, but I have it completely blocked, so all they can do down there is just sit there and look pretty. That's really all there is to this. I blocked that off because normally you can... This area is actually deep underwater. It's kind of magically... I couldn't tell you the location, but it's kind of magically protected by like this little dome, and all this was just sort of here like this. This is just how this setup is. But you come up to it and it looks like this, and you're kind of like, what? You see this little invisible barrier here, and then when you get on the other side, it's just like a normal environment. But this area here was another way to connect back out into the actual ocean, so I just completely sealed this off and put jellyfish, so anything that comes up that way would be sorry. And then that's kind of just it for this little section. If you go back here, I did build a tiny little house just so that there would be something here. I didn't really plan on building something here, as again at this point I already kind of decided on a base. I just thought that this area was too cool to like not at least link a teleporter to come back to at some point. It does have a little bit more. It's kind of like you can't really completely just explore this area because it's like multi-level and it's just all the structures and the terrain are uneven, so but you can kind of get around. So if you take the bridge up here, I've got this little section right here which we'll look at in a minute, but you could go that way or you would continue to take the bridge, and the bridge would come up here to the top section of this area, which I didn't build anything. I threw a couple shine horns in, but it's sort of just a bigger open level here. You could probably build your base here, which I would maybe do at some point if I really wanted to build something here, because then you just get to the top section here and there's really not much going on. I've got a whole fleet outside guarding this area as well, so really nothing's going to really approach this section. But before we get fully into that, I'm going to show you guys, I guess, kind of what I use as like my entrance and exit for this particular base, because you can come through here and you can swim all the way through there, and I can close up this office. Like, as you guys saw, if I close any one of these, it doesn't even really matter which one here. Close that one. So this is like kind of like an underwater office now, but I can see sort of just underwater. Now this doesn't really go anywhere. I've got two guard mosasaurs here, just sort of guarding like this tiny little entrance here. It's the only other way in to the cube. Nothing comes this way, but as you can see, kind of more deep underwater. No way out really. Like we're way underwater. But that's all that is, just kind of covering up a little hole there. So now I'm going to show you guys that main fleet, because if you go up top here, technically you can get out through the top too, even though it sort of comes out into this like little cave type setup. But I just spawned in a bunch of mosasaurs and threw them up top, so nothing's really going to come through here. I made sort of an extra little gate out of behemoth gateways, threw some mines out there. Nothing has even dared to try yet. I did some interesting little setups here with generators and turrets that actually function underwater, to my surprise. Did that a couple locations, so if the mosasaurs don't get you, the turrets will. And that's really all it is. You just kind of go out here more, and it's just more underwater area. It's kind of this giant box in the ground that I decided to go ahead and build in. There is sort of this little area here kind of too. Just another way out. I went ahead and built, some gates over here. So it's like you could swim over the gates, but overall this is pretty secure. Not that anything's really been a threat. And I don't use this base. It's just a real cool location. It's part of my Genesis Part 1 experience, so it's one of those things. Sometimes when I get so many different locations like this on a map where I have several different ideas, I may just like put a bookmark in a place, so to speak, like I kind of did with this. Never really build a base on it, but it's kind of just like a spot that was like a runner-up. It's like, oh hey, I would have probably built here if I didn't find this other location, So there is one other space here. There's one other region, I should say, to this map, Genesis Part 1. I call it, I'm going to go to this first outpost I built here called the Space Frontier. It's pretty cool visually, but this is the most dangerous area of the map because you can't even exist in it without radiation damage just messing you up. This is where you would go to find space whales. Just going to show you guys my quick little setup here. I had a garage here, but this is, I think, the map where they added the ATV, and I realized the ATV was not going to sit in this garage without glitching itself off into oblivion, so it's an empty garage now, tiny little house, nothing going on. I really almost did nothing in this environment, kind of just ignored it at first, It's really cool. It's visually just the coolest looking one, but you can't really do anything here. Now that being said, I did finally, since I started cheating and I was able to freely fly around, I started actually exploring this area a little bit more, like well after I built this first outpost here. And I was interested to find a cave in this same area here, which is where we're going to go now. It's the last spot on this map, and where I built another really fancy base. And because it's the cave, when you go inside the cave, technically you're safe. So we're inside the cave right now, but I'm going to go ahead and take us outside. We're going to explore this base like from the outside. So you can kind of see here, another awesome view here. But this is where I was wandering around. And there was this little cave entrance right here. Normally you wouldn't have seen my force field there, but it was barely noticeable. And right now I don't even think the radiation would be a thing because the sun has to be shining or whatever. I guess it's like the night phase. But if you're inside this cave, the radiation doesn't even affect you. So I went ahead and decided to build a whole blown base here because I thought this was really cool. We had a new little, I don't know what you'd call him, little bad guy. He's actually pretty cool. But you come in here, and I went kind of all out, really just securing this little hallway, making sure nothing would mess with me. Occasionally there's T-Rexes and stuff that spawn out there. But once you get through all that, there's this little gate here. You come in here. There's the teleporter that we got here on, and there's a cloning chamber. This is the only time I actually really ever messed with it. I thought it was a really cool dino and I cloned him. End of story. But we get inside the cave here and it's really fancy. This you can see, I got like a little base set up here. We're going to give a quick little tour of it. So if we come over here, the actual base is built right there up into the ceiling, as you can kind of see. But this cave is just so cool. I went ahead and built this bridge down here, and even kind of just used the water here that was naturally set up like this to build kind of like a spa type area. I mean, there's like a lot of fish in it now. There were less fish in it before, but that's an easy fix, and these aren't aggressive fish, so really, if anything, it's just like free food. But yeah, see, I kind of just even got like chairs in the water and stuff. Thought this was kind of just a cool little spot, decked it out. Everything looked really cool. You could kind of just like be in the water at all times while you were just sort of doing whatever here. Come up here, even there's like a slightly dry area, I guess, to get a bite to eat or whatever, you know, I don't know, for the sake of role playing. Then you got this little path up here, which takes you to the warehouse of this base. Not that I really even needed a warehouse on this one, I don't think. And then I'm not sure what I had going with that. I think that's just probably the spawning bed for this base, and maybe I hadn't decided yet if I wanted to actually build a base. Looks like a hover skiff fell through the floor. That's been a plaguing glitch to happen a couple times. I'm not worried about a random hover skiff, but there have been times in maps where things just fell through the floor. I got a random hover skiff over here in the corner, which would be kind of hard to actually take off there. And I guess I'll just show you guys this little base real quick. We can wrap up this map. If you were to come up here, I've got kind of this nice little balcony type system. I figured why not. It's also kind of set up for you to jump off here. The gravity is not quite the same here, so even without cheats, you don't really have to worry about falling to your death. So that's convenient. I was able to just jump off this, and then I got jump pads even to help me get back. You can see one of those rat guys burrowing down there. They're okay to have in here. I don't really clear the rat guys out because they're not hostile. They don't cause any problems. But you go inside the base here. It's kind of cool. Nice little view here, sort of comfy inside. I kind of had to work with this weird sort of space that I had. I didn't want to have to go crazy on the pillars with this base like I have on certain other ones. So I kept it real close to the actual cave wall here, and just kind of peppered the crafting and storage stations throughout where I could, while also kind of slowly ascending the base from level to level. So you end up getting all the way up here eventually, and you've got your little storage, or your bed, I guess. And that's that, you know. Nothing else really to this base. Yeah, there you can see like the slow-mo kind of fall as I just hop down from one level to the next there. The gravity isn't quite the same in this part of the map, since I guess it's like the space section or whatever. Oh yeah, I got the little bathroom there, I didn't show. But that's it, really. Just I really actually did kind of have fun with this base. This is one of the ones that I thought was pretty cool overall. Hung out down there a lot. I didn't have a clan for this map, but it would have been really cool to have like people to play this one with, since it was a could have probably done a lot more with this one if it was more than just one player, but pretty cool overall. So now we're going to get into the last map, which is Genesis Part 2. It was the final piece of paid content for this game. It wasn't the final map. It's not the most recent map to come out, but it's the last map that the devs actually made and put on the market for us to pay for, and the final part of the Genesis map. This map, it wasn't as mind-blowing as Genesis Part 1, since it kind of piggybacked off of Genesis Part 1. I've only got 2 bases on this map, so that'll finish up the video. I've got a nice fancy-looking little villa, and then I've got like an actual base, which the base is pretty cool because it's in this kind of like long pyramid type thing, which was already there, already built, and I took advantage of it, made it my base. It's really cool. We're going to see that in a second here. And this map is broken into 2 sections, where kind of how like you saw in the last map was broken into like 4 or 5 sections. This one has a long split down the middle that cuts the map in half, and the section in the middle is kind of just like a dead space type zone, so you don't really mess around there. Now this is my main base. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the view here. I guess I gotta take off my chest piece because it's wanted to constantly jetpack. There we go, so now I can fly normal. Alright, so this is kind of roughly one of the section of the map. It was kind of a cool one. There were a couple different spots I wanted to build, including like over there, even, since I figured that was like a really cool looking garden type thing, maybe even over there. But I ended up selling on this. It was kind of a cool spot as well. Very easy to fortify unlike those other spots. You can kind of see here there's even like a way underneath. It's just cool looking, really. I mean, I'm going to fly back up to it now once it gets through this little loading issue that it's having here. Yeah. Look at the other side slightly. It's not as cool, you know, just kind of. Then this side, nothing's really getting up here, so this is just a glorified porch, really. I have a tech wyvern, which this is another one of my favorite wyverns. He's really cool, just looks awesome. Now if you come into the actual base here, got like a little space dolphin. He's just kind of, he's not very useful, to be honest. He's just kind of there now. Loading in again. As it loads in the textures, I guess now that I'm inside here. Again, this was all built, so really this was one of the easiest bases for me to build, and it ended up also being one of the fanciest. I've got my base building station right there. If you come over here, this is kind of this is where the teleporter is, which we're going to use in a minute. Got my building stuff, kind of. I've got another little mannequin set up, so this is why I don't really mess with mannequins on other maps much, because now we have not 1, but 2 maps with a bunch of mannequins. Then if you were to go around, get on the other side over there, I've got my little building within this giant building. Serves as a massive sleeping pod place. I've got security cameras here. It's another base that's decked out with lots of technology. You go all the way down. I've got another mech when he loads in, kind of like on the Fjorder map. These things are kind of fun, actually. This is one of the new guys. Space Lion type thing. They were unique for this map, as was this guy, so I made sure to grab them and stick them in a corner. I've got these little goblin guys too. They're kind of brutal, actually. Then let's check out the other side here. Just kind of ended up filling a little bit of space. Got some cool flowers here. I've got my cloning chamber, another mech, you know, space dolphin, the replicator. Just kind of space stuff out a little bit. This is another base that just ended up being way bigger than what I needed, but I took advantage of it. Got the front gate here. So when you look out front here, we've got this cool view. Looking at the base from the front, this is what it looks like. And you can see how I really only had to do minimal building to make this place cool. These guys are some new creatures. They shoot like these beams If I recall, I can't remember how to do it, so I'm not going to embarrass myself mounting them, trying to get it to work. But they've got little, you can mount them kind of easily. Got convenient fast travel options, so they're just really good mounts, actually. I'm surprised I don't have them on more than just this map, but they're kind of they're guarding the front gate here, which you would then kind of come over this way and then wander down that way if you were on foot and you were trying to get out of here without doing some ridiculous jump, or if you didn't have a flying mount. So that's mostly this map. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to look at the other base real quick. Teleport over there. Now you can look quick glance at the map here. You can see what I mean about how it's split into two pieces here. I have a base on each side, pretty much, with that middle gap there, pretty much being like the dead space kind of environment. There's really nothing there. It took a while to load the map. That doesn't really tell you a whole lot about what things look like, but let's teleport over to the other side. Get a quick little look at this base. Loading, loading, loading. Alright, and we're here. The first thing I'm going to do real quick, show you guys this side, how it differs. This map's interesting because even though it has two different sides, they're pretty similar in a lot of ways, but then you can also see right off the bat how this one it's also quite different. I thought this was the cooler side overall, even though it's a bit weird. I found a couple spots to really build on, but ultimately just kind of settled on this one section that I chose here, which is kind of hidden down in this little, it's not really a cave, it's got like these crevices and stuff here, and then there's like a waterfall type system. It's pretty cool overall, really. You can kind of see how there's some even interesting plant life and stuff. But anyway, when you get all the way down into here, there's a couple different there's two different paths really that would take you to my base here, which is nestled right there, as you can see. It's a cool little villa. It's a base that's pretty simple, all things considered, but I really enjoyed building this one. I thought this one was really cool, especially because just the location here is dope. You come up, you got a little canoe here if you wanted to row off somewhere. Another fancy wyvern blocked this area off, so there's no real access on foot coming up this way. If you were to come in from foot, it would be from this way, and you would cross this little natural bridge here. You get the gate right here, you come inside, and now you're in kind of the courtyard of this little area here, where I have another shadow main. So we're going to do a quick little tour of this area. I've got kind of this light tower here that I got this idea from something. I can't remember what it was now, but this wasn't an original idea, having the light tower above. I just thought it was real cool. You can come up here, look at your map or whatever, I guess. Mostly just to look cool. And you got this area here with a tame kind of inside the base. Then there's two buildings here. We got this little one right here, which is kind of just like the kitchen type area, and it trails off into like almost like a backyard here, which was, I think when I first started building this area, this was my kind of construction out like spot where I had all my supplies sitting while I built the rest of the stuff. It's kind of cool because technically you could even kind of go back behind the base here and get all the way back out to the front, bypassing the gates and everything completely. But it's pretty hidden, so it's cool. But then checking out this other little area here, this is kind of my central area. Once again, I got a fancy little bathroom going on here. Security system, which there's not a whole lot of cameras in this base. There's just a couple little bowls set up there. I can't remember. Yeah, this one doesn't have a second floor in it. Oh, yes it does. Yes it does. I was going to say, I knew one of these did. I just didn't think it was this one. But yeah, we go up here. There's just kind of this little section up here. Kind of like an attic, really. It's kind of cool, I thought. Another little area to just kind of chill and veg out. Now if you go back outside here, there's this back little section too. Cool little trophy there. You can kind of wing around in here. Now this area is really just kind of, it's just cool. I do have a smithy over there in the corner. But this was kind of just to fill the space. Sort of a cool little section really, but didn't have as much of, this part's not as functional as the rest of the base. But that's it. That's kind of the villa. technically you can climb up the ladder there and get up here on this top little section, so you can sort of see outside the walls here. But this is kind of where I end up usually chilling on this map. And that's really it, guys. I know I was a little rushed and maybe I didn't quite get into all the details of every map. I'm really bummed that I lost the most recent videos I did. I want to take you guys on like a full actual walkthrough of the building process and finding a base, looking towards Arc 2 for that. I'm probably going to do what I call a vanilla playthrough, which is where I just play with a group and we actually farm the resources, we do the taming right, we do all the actual work. And then I may do a series of videos where I kind of just do a solo playthrough, but I cheat, much like I've done in this game, just so you guys can be a part of that. Valheim, No Man's Sky, and Conan Exiles are all rumored to have new content, so make sure you guys are following my Instagram for the scoop on any of that. I'm looking for pretty much any new content at this point to actually do a full video with you guys of actually like a build and more just not showing off these bases. But I kind of wanted to start this video series because I've played a couple of these games at this point. I've got a bunch of different bases across different games. Keep an eye out for more of these videos. I've got a couple videos coming from other games. I didn't really plan on this being a two-part video for Ark, but there were just so many maps and so many different bases to look at on this game. It didn't seem justice to cram it all into one video, but the rest of the game should all pretty much be one video. If you guys like this video, make sure you like it and subscribe to the channel. It really helped me out. Let me know in the content or the comments what you guys think about the bases, maybe which one was your favorite, and if you guys are looking forward to Ark 2 or any of the other games that I mentioned and what maybe you guys have going on in those games. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.